Oh, I'm so glad. Okay, the recording is working, Steve.
Yes.
Hold on. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm Lorraine Zamora, president of Three Parks. I'm just so glad to see you all tonight. Thanks for joining us. We have three very knowledgeable and very timely speakers tonight. First up will be New York State Senator Anna Kaplan, representing the Senate District 7 in Nassau County, and she's going to give us a glimpse of the key races on Long Island. Jara Butler, Chief Impact Officer at Supermajority, is going to discuss abortion rights and the midterm elections. And Allie Swiatek, she's from the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, and she's going to explain the 4 proposals that you're going to see on the November ballot. So each speaker has been told to expect some questions from our members. So please put your questions in the chat box. First, 2 brief announcements. I want to thank all of you who came to Ellington in the Park on September 28th. It was really wonderful to see everybody in person and to catch up on a lot of stuff. And I look forward to when we can meet in person at our meetings again. I can't offer you any specific commitments about that tonight, but I just want you to rest assured that really it's meeting in person again is an issue that I have on the top of my list. And it's an item that you're going to be hearing more about in the next month or 2. I hope that the new year gives us an opportunity to meet again in person. And after we hear from our guest speakers tonight, stick around, folks. We're going to tell you how you can help Three Parks, help our endorsed Democratic candidates, as well as Democratic candidates in nearby swing areas win in the November 8th election. So now for our first guest speaker, Anna Kaplan, Senator Anna Kaplan, New York State Senator, and running again to represent the Senate's 7th District in Nassau County. Anna is chair of the Committee on Commerce, Economic Development, and Small Business. And Senator, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you so much, Madam President. I'm so happy to be with you guys tonight again. This is my 3rd visit with Three Parks Democrat. Thank you for this opportunity again. There's 27 days left in this race, and it is a very big race. Here in Long Island, we are very purple, and these are races that really will make a huge difference. We have my race, and I have my opponent who was a prior senator, is trying to make a comeback. And we also have the 3rd congressional district that is also a very priority. And we have different assembly members running with all of these seats. Some of them are open seats, and we have a very good united campaign between Robert Zimmerman, who's running to be the congressman, myself as the senator, and all the different assembly members. Our goal is to make sure we don't leave any stone unturned. As you all know, and I don't need to tell you, this is a really huge, huge election for all of us. Women's rights, sensible gun laws, LGBTQ rights, and our democracy are all on the ballot. And we are fighting like hell to make sure that extremist Republicans that are running for these seats don't get anywhere close to the powers, to the levels of power, whether it's in Albany, whether it's in DC. We have to make sure that we win these seats. And I know you guys have been out and doing phone banking and getting out and helping us. I can't thank you enough. I won 4 years ago with help of a lot of grassroots that came and supported me and helped me. I ran at that time against an incumbent. This seat was in the hands of Republican for decades, and it was wonderful to be able to flip it blue. And it is really vital now for us to keep it blue. Having said that, we've had some challenges because of redistricting. 40% of my district is new district to me, which means I have to really work much harder to go out and introduce myself to that 40% new area, to tell them who I am, why I'm doing this, what my record is, and why it's so important for them to go out and vote for me. But I'm up for the challenge. I do believe anything worthwhile having is worth fighting for it. I fought for a lot of things in my life, and this is a very big fight for me, but I'm getting up every morning very early, going till very late at night, doing whatever I can, going wherever I need to go, and talking to as many people as I possibly can to stress how important this election is. And I'm cautiously optimistic, but you know what? I keep running, and I will run like this till the last day of election, as if I'm 10 points behind, because we just can't take anything for granted. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Chuck Wall will be asking the questions that our members put in the chat box. Do we have any yet, Chuck?
I don't see anything yet, but I would like to ask, some of us have been out canvassing in your district, and
Yes.
how would you like to give us a brief description of what really resonates with your voters when we talk to them? What is it exactly, if you can tell us, that, would be best for us to say?
I think it's really important to highlight how important women's rights are. If Supreme Court, extreme Supreme Court, can overturn a 50-year-old law that has been the law of the land, can overturn it, I am just so happy to say that 4 years ago, my first month, I was responsible to codify abortion into state law. And how important that is right now, especially when we're seeing throughout the country, all the states are rolling back and making abortion illegal. We need to point out that these candidates are running as extremists and that they are running on the conservative party line with who are out to have a total ban on abortion, which includes incest and rape. Talk about safe communities and taking guns out of our dangerous guns out of our communities. Talk about the rise in hate crimes and how Donald Trump has incited and has allowed people to come out and divide communities. Another thing I think is inflation. You can talk about my record on bringing back funding for our schools, for our municipality, cutting gas tax, because I know there are still a lot of families here that are hurting, and we need to help them and give them tools that they need to put COVID behind them and to move forward.
Couple of quick questions. First, do you want to tell us something about your opponent? Who is it you're running against? My opponent is
someone who was a senator. He left to run for Congress and he failed. And then he ran for county executive and he failed. And he's an extremist. And he is running on an extremist ticket with Lee Zeldin and Santos.
What is his name?
Jack Martins.
And
And he voted against marriage equality. He wouldn't codify Roe into our state law. He's never stood up for women and women's choice and rights. And that he cannot represent us in this district or in this state.
Is there any available polling data for how the race is going in your district?
I don't have polling data, but we do have a tracker that's going out. We don't have the results yet.
I see.
Sorry. Oh, hey, Chuck, sorry. I'm Molly. I'm a Manhattan resident, so nice to see fellow Manhattanites here. And I'm also Senator Kaplan's campaign manager. A big part of the reason that I decided to leave my home in Manhattan and come and work for Anna is because she has the most competitive state Senate race in New York this year. She is running in the most deeply purple district anywhere in New York. We put a poll out earlier this year that validated that. It's what we're going to see in our tracker in just a couple of days. And part of the reason it is so competitive is because of what Senator Kaplan mentioned, that 40% of her district is brand new this year. She's running against an experienced candidate, granted a professional losing candidate, but still somebody who has experience pitching himself as a moderate and really working to obscure his record, voting against women's reproductive rights, voting against marriage equality. So we know that we are running in a really tight race this year. And I want to give a huge personal thank you to those of you who came out and door knocked this past weekend, to those of you who have been phone banking. Every little bit makes a huge difference. And we're extremely grateful for your hard work.
Thank you for those words. Here's a question from Wendy Diller, who has been leading our effort on your behalf. She says, when we canvass, voters are concerned about bail reform and the local economy. What is your position on bail reform, and how should we talk to voters about their concerns on crime?
So you can tell them that Senator Kaplan supports fully funding police. That I have a legislation that will help law enforcement. It's additional 500 million, help law enforcement and DAs to keep us safe and to do their job well. That I have been the leading voice to make common sense fixes to bail law and to hold repeat offenders and violent criminals off of our streets, and to give judges discretion so that they can keep our communities safe. And that my opponent all along is for rolling back our sensible gun laws and enabling and putting dangerous guns in our community. That you can tell them that public safety has been a priority for me and will continue to be that priority. I work with the law enforcement here in my district very closely, and I've given them funding to do so that they could put in camera license plate readers, cameras that can read license plates so that they can track who's coming into our neighborhoods. Their public safety has always been my priority and will always remain my priority. And in the last 2 years, I fought like hell for our small businesses. I made sure last year we put in $800 million in the budget as a way of grants to help small businesses. This year, we put additional $250 million. We know small businesses are struggling. We're trying to give them every tool possible for them to put COVID behind them and to go back, hopefully, and succeed, but not only succeed, but to thrive, because when they thrive, our communities thrive and our state will be better for it.
Thank you for that. One last question that I see from our district leader, and it's a little off topic, but maybe you have something to say about this. She says, what do you think about the protests in Iran? And do you think that there's any chance that things there might change?
So I am in awe of all the women who take out to the streets. These women every day are sacrificing their freedom and their rights. They're putting themselves in danger. I don't know whether they'll make it back that night or not, but they are standing strong and saying enough is enough. And I want them to know that we hear them, we see them, and my heart is with them and I stand with them. And I'm an optimist. I'd like to think that this movement is huge. It's not just in the capital, which is Tehran. It's also happening throughout other cities. And it's nice to see that. And I'm a big believer that if there's going to be a change, it's the women that are going to make that change.
Senator, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Raymond, I think back to you.
Senator, a lot of heads are nodding as you just said what you said. Thanks so much for being with us tonight. We look forward to coming back to your district and helping you and Robert Zimmerman as much as we can. So
I can't thank you enough, each and every one of you. I know you're taking time from your busy schedule or even just not doing anything, but taking the time to come and help us in this district. It means so much to me. And I know to Robert also, it is the work of all the people who believe in us and who come and spend that time and that put that effort to get us elected. I hope you know we will always be grateful for that. Thank you.
our pleasure. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Good health and good luck.
Amen. Thank you for all of us.
Okay, good night now. Or you can stay on. We'd love to have you stay on if you would like, but
I'm going to get on another Zoom, but thank you.
Oh,
Sorry, everybody,
of
we have to run
course.
to another meeting in 10 minutes. Thank you all so much for your time, and I can't wait to see you all out on the campaign trail. Thank you for your hard work.
okay, thanks to both of you.
Bye, everyone.
Now we're going to hear from Jara Butler. She's Chief Impact Officer for Supermajority. Now, Supermajority is a national advocacy group focused on protecting women's rights and bringing women together as a political force that transcends age, race, and background. And Jara is here to talk about abortion rights and the midterms, or whatever she thinks we ought to know. Are you there, Jara?
I am. I'm here.
Welcome.
Well,
Remember,
thank-
people, remember the chat box. Put your questions in. Okay, go ahead.
all right. Thank you. Y'all are going to have to forgive my accent. I am a straight Texan, and it comes out when I'm nervous. My name is Jara Butler. I am so excited to be here with you all tonight. I am the Chief Impact Officer at Supermajority Education Fund, Supermajority. What that is, what my job title is I run and oversee all of our program. That includes all of our organizing, communications, digital, and our amazing learning and leadership development program. How I came to Supermajority is kind of interesting. I left my job in 2016 working for JP Morgan Chase, took a 75% pay cut to go work for my local state legislator in my hometown. And from there, I was asked to join the campaign of a man that some of you may know by the name of Beto O'Rourke. I was his political outreach director in Texas for that historic Senate race. And then afterwards, I went and spent some time at Planned Parenthood before going to the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, where our job was to help elect state senators like Senator Kaplan and other legislative leaders across the country before deciding to go to work for the Virginia Democratic Party, and then finally coming to Supermajority. Supermajority as an organization is built around the idea of building women's political power. Women are the majority of people in this country, but our interests are not always represented. And we believe that women organizing other women is how we build political power, and that is what we do. So here we are in 2022. Our organization was founded in 2019 by Cecile Richards, my fellow Texan, Jess Morales-Arquetto, Aijin Pu, and Alicia Garza. In 2019, the goal was simple. We're going to try to get rid of Donald Trump, and that was the goal. Here we are in 2022, and we are in a post-Dobbs world or a post-Roe world, and organizations like Supermajority are needed now more than ever. What that looks like for our organization is we were faced with a choice. If you can just kind of go back with me, this is right around the time of the leak. I had literally started at Supermajority in May of this year. In March of this year. And then not even 90 days later, the Dobbs leak dropped. So I was like, oh, this is going to be great. And we had a decision to make as an organization, which is what was our response going to be? We knew that this was going to be a mobilizing moment. We knew that we were going to have to get active. We knew that we were going to have to do two different things. And that is women were going to be scared. And that immediately trigger laws, or these are the laws that went into effect immediately post-Roe, once the decision was final and it was released, that we were in for a fight. So what we did is our response is we have been working nonstop to get more women to vote. And that has been through digital, and that's also been through phone, piloting a program called Deep Conversations, where we're having 30, 40-minute conversations with voters in 5 states. The reason why we have chosen those particular 5 states are because Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina are all where the fight for Roe is. Abortion rights are officially on the ballot. In Michigan, we saw this happening with the Michigan ballot initiative. With our efforts alone, we were able to collect 11,000 signatures to get that ballot initiative in Michigan on the ballot for voters to vote on. What that ballot does is that ballot initiative would then overturn a 1931 law or 1913 law, I believe, in Michigan, that essentially said that abortion was illegal. Right now, abortion is illegal in Michigan because of 3 people: the state executives, the governor, the attorney general, and the lieutenant governor. And quite frankly, as a woman, I'm not okay with my rights being at the hands of just a few people who are either unelected or a few elected people. So we have been trying to give as much help as we can for the ballot initiative, but also to turn out voters, especially young people. Pennsylvania is another state that we are active in. And the reason why in Pennsylvania is because abortion is on the ballot. Pennsylvania, yes, you have the governor, lieutenant governor, and 2 senators and a senator in Pennsylvania who are Democrats. However, that does not translate down to the state and local. Right now, the state legislature in Pennsylvania has already said that they want to pass a law that would outlaw abortion in all instances. We are in Pennsylvania because we know that the only stopgap in Pennsylvania is the governor. We also know that federally, we need some help in the United States Senate. So we're supporting that race as well. But we are also looking at what we can do down ballot. And we have been talking to women in Pennsylvania since March of this year. And what we have found in Pennsylvania right now, women are currently registered to vote at a 4-to-1. We have a 4-to-1 registration advantage in Pennsylvania. We specifically have been targeting young women. These are women who are not usually likely to vote. The same story that's in Michigan and Pennsylvania translates to Arizona. I'm sure, I don't know if any of you may know, you may not know, but Arizona has a law on the ballot that goes back to 1864. So you think about what was legal in 1864. This law basically says that abortion in Arizona is now illegal. It was challenged in the court again, citing Dobbs, saying that, hey, this Arizona law is legal. That is a terrifying situation because of the fact that you are essentially denying Arizonans the opportunity to make decisions for their own body and for their own health. As someone who is a Texan, this is especially egregious because now fewer women in Texas have options to go out of state. And that is terrifying to me. But we didn't just want to focus on Arizona. We also were instrumental in doing some work in Kansas. One of our majority leaders and was part of our majority leaders coaches program this year. She partnered to do 200,000 postcards in Kansas to defeat for the no ballot initiative in Kansas. And I'm super, super proud of that, but it just shows that mobilization works. We are doing the same work in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, because this stuff matters. Abortion rights have never, I am literally part of the generation that will lose rights. My mom was in Texas in 1973. My mom herself was what we now refer to as a Jane. She was someone who helped other people get access to abortion. When Dobbs happened, my mom called me crying and literally said to me, "I'm sorry." And that broke my heart, but it also fired me up. Because it doesn't make sense that in 2022, we are still having to have the same fights that my mom was fighting in 1973. And at Supermajority, our entire team, and I want to just say that our team is very small. We have a staff of about 40 people. We are active and we are mobilizing, and we are hearing these stories over and over again. We recently had a person who was a part of our community reach out and said, "Hey, I'm going to have to travel for an abortion. I don't know. I don't have the resources. The closest place I can get to is DC. Can you help me? Can you tell me where to go?" This is just one story of many that we consistently hear. When we talk about abortion, we need to say that abortion is healthcare, because that's exactly what it is. But it is also an economic issue. It is an economic issue because if you are going to ask women to bear children, but not provide the safety nets that they need in order to care for those children, that's an economic issue. It's an issue of whether or not women are considered, especially for me as a young Black woman, whether or not we are considered to be actual citizens in this country. I am a capable human being. I am able to make decisions on a daily basis. I should be able to have a say over my body. And right now, 36 million women are going to lose that access or have lost that access. This election, abortion is on the ballot. And we say every year, and I know this because I worked for the party for quite a while, is that every election is the most pivotal election in our lifetime. But every conversation that I have had with a voter, whether it be by text or by phone, or as recently as the grocery store, yes, I got someone registered to vote at the Trader Joe's on Monday. But just by talking about the importance of this election, this is the most important election of our lifetime because my generation will be the first generation to have lost rights. And that is not okay. And at Supermajority, we believe that abortion and health is healthcare. We believe that abortion is an economic issue. It's about whether you trust women to make decisions for their own body. Bodily autonomy is something I personally take very seriously because I know that this was not something that was afforded to my ancestors. And I'm going to guard it with every fiber of my being. But I also know that as I talked to my mom tonight, and she reflected on her experience pre-Roe, that I refuse to cede any right without a fight. And I think it's important that we say that. So at Supermajority, what we are doing is we are running an aggressive campaign to reach what you would call drop-off voters, those people who vote in presidential years but do not turn out in the midterm. And already we are seeing a return on that investment in Michigan. Arizona starts voting today. Early voting starts today in Arizona, but we're waiting on Georgia to come online next, I believe next Monday is when Georgia comes. Pennsylvania does not have early voting, but Pennsylvania has mail ballots, and those ballots went out on the 19th. And if we see the same trend that we saw in Michigan, if we see what we have seen in Kansas, we believe that women will make the defining, will have the biggest role, and that Supermajority wants to be right there with them, training them, mobilizing them, organizing them. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. That's my spiel.
Thank you, Jara. And Steve Max will be asking you questions from the members. Do we have any, Steve?
Got to get unmuted here. Oh, no, we have a thank you for linking women's reproductive rights to economics from Danielle Gerard. I had a question. It's a kind of an outlier, but maybe you have a sense of this. The question is how does the choice issue and the Supreme Court abortion rights issues play among people who come from India, Pakistan, that part of the world? The reason we're asking is that we're doing a lot of postcard writing for the 3rd District. And on the list, we're seeing blocks of names of people who are identifiable as coming from that region. And we don't know if the message that we're giving is right. We're giving a choice message. Do you have any sense of that?
What we're finding is that poll after poll, community after community, that abortion rights is actually resonating. But the language matters. In the reproductive justice space, you hear people say, we want to remove the abortion stigma, but we also have to realize that a lot of folks are still not as comfortable saying abortion. So linking it and tying it to reproductive health, reproductive freedom, or body autonomy, those types of words and phrases actually do, they land in various communities. But what we're also finding is that there's also a generational gap. Younger people are way more invested in this particular issue, and that's interesting. That's across the board. I mean, I've done a lot of rural organizing. I love rural organizing, and in rural communities, it's the same thing. Where you see younger people who are more engaged and more knowledgeable about that. But I would say that using the word reproductive freedom, using choice and body autonomy really does matter.
Okay, well, that's a help. The second list we got is younger women, so that should do better there. Do we have other questions from anybody?
Yeah, one question is, what can we do? What are you asking us to do?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. With 26 days left in the election, we are running phone banks and text banks into these states every week. But our big day of action is October 29th. If you would like to volunteer, if you have the availability to volunteer for our big day of action on October 29th, I will gladly send you to our website because we will never turn down volunteers. I don't like to lose. I don't like to lose at all. And I think the stakes are so high that I ask everybody 3 questions. Are you registered to vote? Do you know there's an election? And would you like to volunteer? There is no shame in my game here. So I will drop our link to our website where you can sign up to volunteer. We do have a program called Activate 260 where we have been actively recruiting. We needed 1,500 volunteer captains. I think we've gotten over that, who are literally captains from all over the country that have adopted one of these 5 states. And they're leading house parties and phone bank parties every week to reach 260,000, which is the number that Biden won by in 2020 in these 5 states. So I will drop that link in the chat.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Jane Thompson. She says, you mentioned supporting the PA Governor Shapiro. Are you finding Fetterman for PA Senator on board with women's rights? Susan Wild running for US Congress? Question, same.
Absolutely. And I should say that we absolutely are supporting the Senate race because we are because we are a nonprofit and an advocacy group. We can't specifically name a particular candidate, but we are definitely supporting the candidates who support reproductive rights. But we want to support candidates who support reproductive rights and women's economics rights and our safety and all of these different things, because we do have something called the majority rules. And I will say that these particular individuals do, their platforms and policies do align with our majority rules.
Okay, Danielle Gerard asks, in addition to Pennsylvania, what do you think the next state that's most important would be?
Oh, so I can't say that there's one, because really and truthfully, this is I've been doing this for 22 years, if you can believe that, since like high school, since I graduated from high school. But I would say that this election is unique. But if I had to choose 3 states, I'm going to say 3 and not 1. My 3 states that I think we should keep an eye on: Wisconsin. The Wisconsin Senate race is very, very interesting, and not a lot of eyes are on it. We have seen a lot of movement in the suburbs and with suburban women, which is helpful and good. The Florida Senate race is actually going to be very interesting. And then I would be remiss if I did not say we need to keep an eye on Texas. My former boss, my friends, somebody who I absolutely look up to, Beto, is running, but there's also Mike Collier running for lieutenant governor. And then we have the same 14 women who took 14 seats in the Texas House are up again. And that's pivotal to hold those seats. So I would say, I would also say we need to keep an eye on Nevada. Nevada is another one that we need to keep an eye on. And it's the Secretary of State race in Nevada that we need to be concerned about. In a lot of these states, it's not just the governor or the Senate races, it's the down ballot that we need to pay attention to. Secretary of State is very powerful in Nevada. That's the person who certifies the election. The same thing in Arizona. We really need to pay attention to those races. So if I had to say, it's going to be a tie between those 4. Texas, because Texas really, really needs help. My state is suffering. Wisconsin, because we have an opportunity to take a seat Nevada because of Secretary of State.
Okay, I think that wraps us up, Lorraine. The website for Supermajority is in the chat box. For
Right.
those who asked for it, and that's the end of the questions.
Jara, I want to thank you again. There is no doubt in my mind that you are passionate in what you're doing and you believe strongly in doing what you're doing. And you're so knowledgeable and so clear in what you have to say. It's been a pleasure to listen to you and hear you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me and inviting the organization in. And I'm just so grateful. I love my Democratic clubs as someone who worked for the party. And thank you for everything you're doing for New York State. And also Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins used to be my boss. She was the board member. She was the board president of the DLCC. So.
Okay, you have a bright future.
Thank
Thanks
you.
again. I hope you come visit us again.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. Now for our third speaker. Boy, we are batting 1,000 here, folks. I want to welcome Allie Swiatek. And Allie is the Director of Policy and Research at the New York City Campaign Finance Board, which oversees the Voter Assistance Advisory Committee, which educates voters on what they need to know before going into the voting booth. Did I get that right, Allie? I know she's on.
Yep, I'm right here. That's correct.
There you go. Okay. So Allie is here to explain the 4 proposals that are going to be appearing on the November ballot. Okay, over to you, Allie. Thanks for coming. And put your questions in the chat box, everybody.
I'm sure there will be plenty of questions. I am gonna share my screen and oops, it says that I think I need to be a co-host to share my screen.
Oh, can we help her?
Sure. Hold on.
Hold on, Allie.
Swiatek, here we go.
Otherwise you miss out on this beautiful presentation I borrowed.
We cannot miss out on that.
Simply cannot.
Simply cannot.
I made her a co-host.
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna share my
There we go.
screen on a small laptop. This is always fun. Okay, so can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, nice.
Cool. All right, so hi folks, my name is Allie Swiatek. I'm the Director of Policy and Research at the New York City Campaign Finance Board. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white woman with glasses on. I have brown hair and my background is blurred because I'm in my home. So I'm gonna go through just some basics about voting because everyone can use a refresher. The dates are always different, it turns out. And as we know, there are many ways to vote now, which is very exciting. So for those of you who don't know who the Campaign Finance Board is, we are a nonpartisan independent city agency that empowers New Yorkers to make a greater impact on their elections. So we primarily educate voters through our NYC Votes arm. You may receive the voter guide in the mail. That's also done by us. But we also manage the matching funds program for city offices. And one other thing that I do just want to mention as well is you should be receiving your voter guide in the mail. So look out for that. I'm going to go over just really briefly the 3 different ways you can vote and give you some deadlines so that they're at the top of your head. So you can cast your vote in 3 ways in New York State. 1 is through early voting, 2 is on election day, and 3 is by mail or using an absentee ballot. So early voting is from October 29th to November 6th. That's a Saturday to a Sunday. You have an assigned early voting location, which is different probably from your election day poll site. And folks should just make sure that their poll site hasn't changed because we recently underwent a redistricting process. And you just want to make sure that your poll site is actually the site that you think it is. You can do that by going to our website, nycvotes.org, where you can also make a plan to vote. The hours are different each day, so make sure you check your poll site and confirm those hours before you actually show up because you could be too early or too late, depending on what those opening and closing hours are. And as I already shared, it's running for 9 days before election day, and there's weekend and evening hours and early morning hours too. Election day itself is on Tuesday, November 8th. Polls are always open from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You have to vote at your assigned poll site, but your election day poll site is probably pretty close to your house, probably down the street. Again, your poll site location can change, especially with redistricting. And from time to time, the Board of Elections will find a better location that can serve more voters or provide a more accessible voting area than the previous poll site. And so they do change. You just want to make sure that you're going to the right one. Voting by mail is a two-step process, and the request deadline is coming up. It is October 24th. The good news is you can do that really, really easy by going to nycabsentee.com. If you want to check temporary illness, that allows you to use the COVID-19 pandemic as a reason to request an absentee ballot. You can also call the Board of Elections at 866-VOTE-NYC, or you can go in person and request an absentee ballot there. Of course, once you actually get that ballot, you have to complete it and mail it. The last day that you can do that by postmark is November 8th. You can also drop off that ballot at any poll site through the early voting period or on election day. And you don't need to use postage anymore, so that's no longer an issue. But you want to make sure you sign the back of the envelope as instructed and pay attention to that deadline. November 8th is your magic date for that as well. Okay, so let's get to the important pieces here. What is on the ballot in 2022? So there are several state and federal offices on the ballot. Depending on the district that you're in, you may see more or fewer races because, you know, things have staggered terms and things like that. But in certain races, there are US Senate and House, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, comptroller, state Senate, state assembly, Supreme Court, civil court, and surrogates court, which is your local court in Manhattan. Federal offices on the ballot are US Senate and US House of Representatives. I'm not going to go over with you folks about what those offices do because I'm just going to assume you know. But you can feel free to ask me questions at the end. Of course, our state offices on the ballot are governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general. I'm also not going to cover these with you because I'm going to assume you know about them. But if you have any burning questions about what the attorney general's job is, feel free to ask and I will do my best to answer them. Finally, we're getting to the ballot proposals. So what is a ballot proposal? We should be more familiar with them at this point because it feels like every single general election, we have a ballot proposal on our ballot now, but they are yes, no questions that voters answer. If most people vote yes, the proposal becomes law. If more people vote no, it does not become law. It's a form of direct democracy. So you're basically a senator or a council person for the day. And this year there's 1 statewide and 3 citywide ballot questions. You want to make sure you flip over your ballot because since there's 4 questions, they do take up more space. I'm going to go over each of these individually, so I'll skip doing the summary here. So the first one is about Clean Water, Air, and Clean Jobs Act. So this is this ballot proposal addresses a state law that would authorize the sale of $4.2 billion in state bonds, which is just a fancy way of saying government stocks, to fund climate-related projects. So they would include climate resiliency, preserving green space, modernizing wastewater systems, buying school buses that are electric, or creating new green energy products. So this is a question that's basically asking if you would like the state to authorize the sale of these state bonds to fund these specific projects. It's earmarking them for this purpose. The second question is a result of the Racial Justice Commission, which is a charter revision commission that was started by then Mayor Bill de Blasio in June of 2020 during the George Floyd protests and the conversation about racial justice that our country underwent during that time. And their purpose is to basically take a look at the city charter and identify ways that it could be improved to reflect the diversity of New York City and also to make sure that the systems and structures of barriers that prevent people from participating fully in our society are addressed, and also we come up with solutions for them too. So this first ballot proposal from the City Racial Justice Commission is actually the second ballot proposal on your ballot, but it would add a statement of values to our city charter, or a preamble. So right now, the city charter, which is just the city's constitution, basically, doesn't have a preamble. So it would add an introductory statement of values and a vision statement, trying to build a just and equitable city for all New Yorkers, and also address the past and continuing harms of these systemic barriers that I was talking about, and make sure that our structures, institutions, government agencies, and our laws that are passed by those, our elected officials, are used to promote justice and equity for all New Yorkers. So it's kind of a guiding statement of mission statement, or a statement of values for the city on the whole. The third question is also a proposal from the Racial Justice Commission. It's to establish a racial equity office, plan, and commission. So this proposal seeks to establish a racial equity office headed by a chief equity officer. A racial justice commission would be permanently established, with members appointed by elected officials. Citywide agencies would be required to create a racial equity plan every 2 years, and that would roll up into a larger citywide racial equity plan. And again, that's every 2 years. And then the last thing is that those plans and the commission itself's purpose would be to identify and propose priorities to inform racial equity planning, and then also be in charge of reviewing those plans and making sure that they meet the requirements of what the goal is of this commission. Okay, number 4 is, I think this one is probably the most interesting to me, because it is a true cost of living assessment. And this is another proposal by the Racial Justice Commission. So this proposal would mandate that the city government calculate an accurate cost of living and make annual public reports on the matter. So the annual cost of living in New York City is currently calculated by the federal government. The Federal Reserve calculates it, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics are in charge of retaining that information. And the cost of living is actually a statistic that's used in a surprising number of areas. It's actually baked into several laws. One interesting example that I always find fascinating is that the contribution limits in New York City are actually pegged to increase based on the cost of living increase that takes place. So that's just one example, one that directly impacts my agency, but there are plenty of places where this cost of living statistic is used to actually meaningfully impact policy. So this this proposal would essentially say that it would basically include a more accurate picture of the cost of living in New York City than the current standards that are used by the federal government. So it would include things like childcare, transportation, and things that actually aren't included, and it would disclude public, private, and informal assistance. So the reason why that is important is because if you're removing the cost of providing SNAP benefits, which are, some folks refer to them as food stamps, but it's called SNAP, is something that provides nutritional assistance to children and families in need. If you're actually taking that out of the factor when you're determining cost of living, of course, we know that that's actually something that's meaningful and impactful to lots and lots of families in New York City. It's not actually depicting a correct cost of living. And as I've already said, these calculations and this statistic, the cost of living, really meaningfully impacts policy and program decisions in our city. So you want it to be as accurate as possible. All right, and I'm just gonna go over again some deadlines. Your vote by mail deadlines are request by October 24th, return by November 8th. Early voting starts on Saturday, October 29th and runs until Sunday, November 6th. And then election day itself is on Tuesday, November 8th. you should go to our website, nycvotes.org. Here you can find links to check your registration with the Board of Elections. You can find your poll site through a link as well, and read the voter guide, which is available in English, Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and Bengali. And you can also meet candidates on the ballot. So I will say one thing about the candidates on the ballot this year. Unlike in city elections, where you actually have a very full and robust voter guide, we actually don't have a lot of ability to entice state or federal candidates to give us a profile for our voter guide, because even though New York City is a massive place and the best city in the world, we are still a locality. So the voter guide is not as robust as it is in city years, but we will excitingly have basically pro and con statements people have submitted related to the ballot proposals. So you'll get a sense of why you might want to vote in favor of a ballot proposal, or why you might want to be voting against it, based on what people like you or also experts in their field have submitted their opinion is on those ballot questions. So we try and inform voters by providing that perspective, but are not actually able to advocate for or against ballot proposals ourselves as a government agency. The poll site locator, registration status, and election calendar are all available on our website as well. Okay, and last but not least, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is aswatek@nyccfb.info. And that's the end of my presentation. I will do the best I can to answer questions.
Well done, Allie, really. That was a terrific overview and a focus on the 4 propositions that are coming up. Now Chuck Wall is going to ask the questions from our membership.
Hi, Allie, this is Chuck. I see a couple of questions already. First, the first question is, how much is allocated to the Racial Equity Office? I presume that's in terms of funds.
So it depends on if the proposal passes. The budget isn't created for the Racial Equity Office. I think it would be effective either 2023 or 2024, but that would undergo the budgeting process for fiscal year 2023 in July of, no, fiscal year 2024 in July 2023. I always get that wrong.
A quick question about voting. Miriam Raban asks, if someone has applied for an absentee ballot, when should you expect to receive it?
So I don't know when you requested the absentee ballot, but I know that they have been mailed. So if you have not received one, I would go to nycabsentee.com. I'll put the address in here, nycabsentee.com. You can look up your voter registration and it'll show you if your application has been processed for the absentee ballot. And if it hasn't, you can put the application in right there and then track it through the entire process through their tracker.
Here's a question from our district leader. Would proposal number 4 be done by the controller, or would it mean creating more jobs to do those cost of living calculations?
I actually don't know that answer. The answer to that question, you've stumped me. And also, admittedly, I am not a complete expert on these proposals. I know enough to get by. But that's a really good question. And you can find more information on the proposals because this was a part of a really robust process of receiving feedback from New Yorkers and basically fine-tuning those proposals based on policy and legal expertise of the commission itself at the Racial Justice website, which I just posted in Racial Justice Commission's website, which I just posted in the chat too. Looks like my absentee website didn't link.
Just a question from me. Is there anything you can tell us about whether any of our local elected officials have endorsed or not endorsed these proposals?
So As far as I actually don't know. You might inquire by messaging their offices directly. I know that sometimes electeds will submit a pro or con statement for our ballot proposals, but we have our voter guide is not yet live. And so I'm not entirely sure who has submitted those.
Jane Thompson asks, in the proposal, the language of the proposal refers to all New Yorkers. And who exactly does that include?
The language that says all New Yorkers. I think that it's all New Yorkers. So the purpose of the Racial Justice Commission is to kind of acknowledge and address the fact that there are systemic barriers to full participation in certain aspects of government, civic life, several other areas, pretty much everything, because of the ways that laws were written and laws were also policed and also enforced. And so the purpose of basically creating the Racial Justice Commission and making it perpetual and also creating the equity plans is to address that core issue. So so that all New Yorkers will be represented.
Yeah.
Are you recommending, is it your recommendation that we vote yes to each proposition?
I am not allowed to tell you anything about that because I am a government employee.
Ah, okay.
I'll answer that. I'll answer that question. The answer is you should absolutely vote yes on every single ballot proposal. And it would be great if three parks could lead the charge on that. So
Right.
thank you.
I can't
Thank
see
you,
Danielle,
Danielle.
but I can hear her voice.
Yeah, this is my second.
Danielle, I don't think the club has taken a position on that yet.
No, the
No.
club has not. I was
No,
only.
but already people have come up to me and asked
Right. But so that's Danielle's opinion.
what we're
No, that-
recommending. Right.
The way the club works is we can't, as a club, make a proposal
Right.
for people unless the club has voted on it. That was my own personal view based on this being the second meeting I've been in with Allie tonight. So I just want to say that, and I've seen the presentation 3 times now. So this is my own personal opinion, not that of three parks at all, because Lynn is absolutely right. We don't take positions unless the membership votes. Thanks, Allie.
No.
I
you
forgot
don't.
that you also saw the other like really expansive presentation earlier tonight.
Usually,
Danielle basically should have done the presentation.
usually when we're asked questions like this, we say, would you like to know my own personal opinion? So when the club hasn't endorsed something like this, so. Chuck, are there more questions?
I think that's probably it. There's a last question about the economic impact of these proposals on the city. That sounds to me, that sounds pretty tough to judge, considering what we've
A little
heard.
premature, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if I can tackle that one.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead,
also-
Allie, give it a shot. No.
So unlike Congress, which is required to have like an OMB estimate for certain things that are going to require significant funding, the city is not required to do that for ballot proposals.
No.
I think, Allie, that was Lynn Maxis, that was my question. Okay, that in something like creating an office in the city of New York, okay, then how does one judge whether this is a good use of spend of city money versus tackling the rats or any other of the million things that are needed? And how does it work? And what kind of bureaucratic system is it going to set up? So I feel like a little like I'm going into that particular one a little blind without knowing, okay, what the parameters are. All right. Is it a guidance to the city? Or is it a whole bureaucratic office that every hire is going to have to go through? It really makes a difference in how one would look at that proposal.
I think you hit the nail on the head of what's actually difficult about being a legislator and why I certainly do not want to be an elected official, because you don't always know what the actual outcome is going to be from passing laws. And that's the tricky part with direct democracy. We're asking everybody to kind of play that role. For something like a new office or commission, we've created several of them over the last couple of years. If you wanted to dig into the budget documents for New York City, which if you want to do that, you certainly can, but you also may put yourself to sleep doing it. It's not exactly the most riveting document.
Yeah, but in this case, the past wouldn't necessarily be a predictor of the future.
Right. But we recently created the Civic Engagement Commission, which is a smaller sized commission that I would guess would be similar in size and similarly staffed to something like a Racial Justice Commission.
Yeah.
I don't know.
One last question I see is maybe, I think you touched on this a bit, but please reiterate for us where these proposals came from and who drafted them and how they got on the ballot.
So then Mayor Bill de Blasio in October of 2020 initiated the Racial Justice Commission, which is just a charter revision commission. So he can unilaterally do that as mayor. And so they began the process of soliciting feedback from New Yorkers about how to make a more equitable New York. I am not an expert on that, so I would suggest going to the Racial Justice's website. It probably goes through all of the proposals they received. I know there were a lot. And as someone, so in my past life, I worked on a charter revision commission in 2019. So I know the process with staff is they review those proposals, they do research, they find out what their commissioners are interested in doing. Because it was a mayoral charter revision commission, all of those appointees were made by then Mayor Bill de Blasio. So they determine what proposals are most vital and important, and they publish a report on it. So the website also has a pretty expansive report on these topics, and you can read the entire preamble too. They have a really good one-pager on that.
Here's one last question that sounds is pretty interesting. How does the proposed Racial Justice Commission differ from the existing Human Rights Commission?
So I think that the Human Rights Commission was initiated from an executive order by Bill de Blasio or Mayor Bloomberg. Don't quote me on that. So I think how they differ, I'm actually not certain because I'm not an expert in what the Human Rights Commission does by any means. They're an existing city commission, so they're I believe that their primary focus is initiating complaints specific to the human rights law passed in New York City. So they wanted to create a structure by which folks could report violations of the human rights law that was passed. And this was the way that they created basically a government entity to receive those complaints, investigate them, and then provide enforcement. So that's not something that the Racial Justice Commission would do. Their purview would not be the human rights law.
Right. Thank you really, Allie, for being with us tonight. Gee, I hope you don't have another one after us. I hope this is good for you.
I don't, but I'm definitely presented out for the day.
You're presented out for the day. Good job. Thank you very, very much. That's been very helpful.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Our pleasure. And now, before I ask to hear from Cynthia Doty and Dan Cohen, I really want to take a minute to tell all of you how you can help us with campaign activities between now and Election Day. Last week, we started campaigning for the candidates we endorsed in the June and August primaries. We have a table on 104th and Broadway every weekend to do that. And also for select weekday mornings at the 96th and Broadway subway station. And I urge you to check our website and watch our e-blasts, of which there are many. Chuck is spending his days sending out e-blasts, and there are quite a few, but we hope you will watch them for all the details because we really need your help. In addition to helping our local or state Democrats. We're also helping select Democrats in the swing state, in the swing areas outside of Manhattan by canvassing and writing postcards. In fact, tomorrow night, Lynn and Steve are on the street corner every Monday and Thursday night, handing out postcards. And they're going to be there tomorrow night from 4:30 to 6. And just let me go to Lynn and ask her for some more details.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Okay, we are doing a great postcard campaign to assist Robert Zimmerman in the 3rd Congressional District on Long Island. We already have collected about 1,000 postcards, which will be sent to them and they'll mail them out in Nassau County. Right now, we only have 4 other pickup times, starting with Thursday, okay? Every Thursday and Monday, 4:30 to 6. It's really important. The campaign wants us to do this. If anybody read the New York Times today, you see how important these New York races are. We have plenty of postcards. We hope that you'll come out. I know it's going to be raining tomorrow, okay? But there's a wonderful scaffolding in front of Lorraine's building on the corner of 104th and Broadway, northwest corner, and we will be there 4:30 to 6 with packets of postcards for you to pick up and return to us any Thursday and Monday, 4:30 to 6. Thank you.
Plus, this Saturday, I'm emphasizing what's happening this week so you don't get too confused. On Saturday, there's going to be a group going out to Long Island by train, and that is being led by Wendy Diller, and I'm turning to Wendy for the specifics on that.
Hi, everyone. We're going to meet Saturday at 8:30 at the 96th Street subway and catch a 9:20 train to Mineola, to where there is in Mineola, there is a brief rally for Nassau County Democratic candidates and followed by canvassing opportunities. So we'll go to the rally and then canvass for Robert Zimmerman and Anna Kaplan in the Mineola Hempstead area. The plan is to return to New York by train, either the 114 or the 145 train. So we're back in the city by 2 or 2:30. And the good news is it's pretty close to Manhattan. You can get a lot done and it's pretty close to Manhattan. It won't take you all day. And you heard Anna speak about what's at stake in Nassau County. So we hope to see you there. One caveat, I do ask, if you do sign up to come and then at the last minute can't make it, please let me know. Or please, I will be sending out an email to everyone who registers to come. And if you can't make it for some reason, please let me know. Thanks, and hope to see you there.
Wendy, repeat the times, repeat the meeting times.
So yeah, the meeting time is 8:30 at the 96th Street subway station. Where the aim is to catch a 9:20 train to Mineola. We're going to Mineola this week. And that train gets into Mineola about 9:50. And then it's about a 15-minute walk to the Mineola courthouse where there is a rally before everyone branches out to do canvassing.
It'd be very helpful for everybody to register. Go to the Three Parks website, threeparksdems.org, click on the sign that says Stop Republicans, and it'll take you to the activities for this week, and then you can register from there.
Right. In addition to canvassing for Robert Zimmerman, we're also canvassing this month for Susan Wild in Pennsylvania and Josh Riley in the Hudson Valley. And I urge you to go to our website for those dates and times, and also watch for our e-blasts. And then in addition, on Tuesday evenings, we are going down to the Battery Park Staten Island Terminal to help Max Rose. So we have a number of things going on. And as I say, check our website, threeparksdems.org, and watch for our e-blast. Did I forget anything in our activities? Okay.
Hi, Lorraine, let me, unless Irene wants to talk, okay, the first Tuesday at the Staten Island Ferry Terminal was yesterday. It's a lot of fun, okay? There were 5 of us, okay? A lot of people like us to be there, some don't, okay? So that's interesting too. But the ones that do like are happy to tell you they're voting for Max Rose. I think it's good. It gives people encouragement. Okay, it gives them another reason to go to the polls and vote for Max Rose when they see there are other people there supporting them. So Tuesdays, meet at the ferry terminal at 4:30.
Great.
4:30 to 6.
Great. While we're talking, Chuck, you want to put in a plug in for the 96th Street subway station?
Can I just say something about Max Rose?
Of course.
Oh, okay, because Lynn, we're meeting, we'll be at the ferry terminal at 4:30, but we're gonna be at 96th Street at the 3:45. If anybody wants to join us, and we'll go down there together. As Lynn said, yesterday, 5 of us were there, and we were outside the terminal. We hope, and I will know by the end of the week, whether the campaign will be able to get the, okay, they need a permit from DOT to be inside the terminal. But the coordinator, who's very lovely, will be in touch with me by the end of the week. So hopefully this upcoming Tuesday will be inside the ferry terminal. So if anybody decides to come on their own, they should go into the ferry terminal. And also to please contact me and let me know if you're coming. So if there's any last minute changes, I will know. And I will let you know if there's any last minute changes.
Okay. Thank you, Irene. That's Irene Schreier. Thanks for everything, Irene.
When you get into the ferry terminal, look for green signs that say Max Rose.
Right. Yeah, we have signs and we have T-shirts. So next week I'll wear a T-shirt.
Lorraine, is there time to talk about Josh Riley? No, you don't want to?
Well, no. First, I want to go back to Chuck and then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I'll be quick. Starting next week, we're going to have a sidewalk table at the 96th Street subway station on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 8 to 9 a.m. And this is a repeat of what we did for the primary. When we did this for the primary, we had a terrific time. There is a lot of foot traffic, as you know, at the 96th Street station. And we handed out literature, we answered questions, we really accomplished a lot. So we're going to try to repeat that success. And everyone who would like to join us, we would love to see you. We'll be there with a table, literature, T-shirts, the works.
Okay, Miriam, where are you?
Yeah, so I just wanted people to be on the lookout for a blast about an opportunity to canvass for a great candidate in a critical purple district. So that's Josh Riley. He's in CD19, which was the district where a lot of Three Parks people worked hard for Antonio Delgado. The district is dramatically redistricted. So Josh is a great progressive candidate. He has a very strong focus on job creation. He grew up in a small town outside Binghamton. He saw jobs lost, while, as he says very movingly, there were headlines the same day about Wall Street bonuses. So he has great progressive positions on not only the economy, but also on the environment, on gun safety, and he's pro-choice. So on October 29th and 30th, you can come up and canvass. I will meet you at the train station, or on Sunday, you can get a ride from the corner of Amsterdam and 109th. And you can have a lovely weekend in the Hudson Valley if you choose to stay overnight. So you just email me and I'll get back to you. But there's a great option to canvas for a great candidate. I've done a lot of canvassing for him and it's extremely interesting. So hope you come.
Okay, are the colors beautiful up there now?
They are. They're
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, hope they'll last for another week or two.
Right.
So while we're on, I want to go Ellen Flax or Dan.
Yeah. So on Sunday, the 23rd, we are going to be canvassing in the Lehigh Valley, probably in Easton, where we'll be canvassing for Susan Wild, who, excuse me, is arguably in one of the most competitive congressional districts. She's the incumbent. And at the same time, we'll be campaigning for John Fetterman for Senate, Josh Shapiro for governor. I think we're going to be leaving around 8:45 in the morning, and we hope to be back by 6 in the evening. We have at least 2 cars that are going to go from the Upper West Side, and we have room. We still have room in the cars, and if you are able to drive, we would love to have you as well. So please come. I don't have to tell you, Pennsylvania is ground zero for lots of things this year.
Right. Thanks, Ellen. And in addition to that, go to our website and check the e-blasts in case you didn't get all of that down. Okay, good. And I really urge all of you to volunteer as much as you can. I mean, this is a critical time. We only have a few more weeks to go. And so everybody counts, as every minute counts. Okay, let's go to our district leader, Cynthia.
Hi, everybody. I don't need to go through all of the local election opportunities because Allie did a terrific job letting everybody know when early voting starts and how to get your poll site. Most of us in the Three Parks area will have early voting at West Side High. Some of us a little bit further to the north will be at the little storefront that's at 112th and Broadway. But you really need to go to Vote NYC to make sure that you are going to the correct early voting site. But in addition to that, I think it's, as all the speakers tonight have emphasized, this is critical election time. If there's a lot going on in a lot of states, I think there's a chance that we can get a couple more seats in the Senate, and there's a chance that we could hold on to the House, but it's still up in the air. We don't know. And if we lose the House, it would be terrible. If we lose both the House and the Senate, it would be disastrous. So we need to do what we can. If you can't physically go on any of the campaign activities that we've been organizing as a club, you might consider doing, contributing to some of the candidates around the country. They do need money, and even like Stacey Abrams in Georgia has a big challenge. Reverend Warnock has a challenge, as well as all the states that the supermajority spokesperson outlined. It's really, and you may want to consider going to supermajority.com and join some of their texting efforts too, because it seems like they're very organized. And it is true, one of the most mobilizing issues that's going to be happening is getting young women to vote based on the abortion laws or the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So that's pretty much all I have to say. We have just a few weeks left, and it's important for everybody in your free time to get as involved as possible. If you can't leave the house, there are things you can do over the phone or postcard writing. I think that is effective. The other thing is to be sure to watch tomorrow for the January 6th commission hearing, which is the last one that's going to be at 1 o'clock tomorrow. So be sure you tune into that.
Oh, wow.
See what's going on in terms of our former president, to see whether he's, well, anyway, I don't have to summarize all that stuff, but there's a lot going on, and it's important not to get discouraged. I think that with all of the negative stuff that you hear about, and the shock we're all in, that somebody like Herschel Walker could have an appeal, or somebody like Dr. Oz could have an appeal to any voters. It's amazing to me. But rather than just sit back and feel shocked and outraged, it's important for us to actually do something. So find a way that you can be doing something, not only voting for our local candidates and helping out with our local tabling and getting people registered to vote, but joining some of the statewide and national campaign activities the best you can.
And Tony Zach wants to know if there'll be poll worker training for early voting days as opposed to the training publicized for election day itself.
Yes, you have to be trained. You have to take a refresher class, and the early voting training is different from the election day training. So if you are one of the poll workers, you need to call the Board of Elections and find out, to make sure you've gotten a refresher class. All of our
Cynthia?
early, yeah.
Cynthia, the Board of Elections told me that I didn't have to take any classes.
The refresher class, maybe it's not for information clerks. I don't think I have to do anything separate. So.
Okay, thank you.
Most of our early
special dispensation for rabbis, Ellen.
Yeah, right. And somebody named Ellen Flax got a special dispensation, but most of our early voting sites throughout Manhattan have been filled already. It's the election day sites that we still have some vacancies, but in our area, we're actually doing pretty well. The 69th Assembly District is very well served at the moment.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. Any more questions for Cynthia? Okay, then we're going over to Dan Cohen, our state committee guy.
Thank you, Lorraine. I'll be very brief because the hour is late. A couple of quick things. We had a New York State Democratic Committee meeting last month. I was unanimously reelected to the executive committee, which is nice for us to continue to have representation from the progressive West Side on the state party's executive board. Well, we're also focused on, appropriately, the election cycle that's going to conclude next month. Next year is going to be city council elections again. This is the special time of year in the cycle where we have 2-year terms for city council, and the district lines are being redrawn. New lines are going to be released. The likelihood is that the District 7, represented now by Sean Abreu, will be fully uniting the West Side, whereas before it was split between the 6th and the 7th, between what's Gail's seat and Sean's seat, will be fully within Sean's district, which, among other things, means that it gives considerably more weight to the 3 clubs in the 69th, and I would argue to 3 parks, because we are a force within the 69th and have an influence in that seat. It's too early to tell what's going to happen. I presume that Mr. Abreu is going to run for re-election, and whether other candidates will emerge to challenge him, or whether he will run uncontested. But as those lines are reissued, I will forward them to the board and to the club for you to take a closer look at. As it stands, the district goes down to about 92nd Street. So it picks up all of the West Side from River to Park, whereas before it was split down Broadway. And lastly, I just want to make an appeal to all of you to bring a friend. Political organizing and campaigning is so much better when you have a friend with you. I know you all have lots of friends amongst yourselves within the club itself, but I know you have at least one friend outside of the club, and I want you to make a specific point of think of who that person is right now and ask them to get involved with any of the campaign events you're doing, whether it's postcarding, phone banking, or traveling to Pennsylvania. We need you to reach out and get your friends involved for this last final stretch. I'll end it there because I know we're now at 9:30 and I know it's late, but it's great to see you all, and I will see you on the campaign trail soon. Thanks, everybody.
Nicely done, Dan. Thank you very much. So at this point, remember to volunteer between now and Election Day for one of our activities. Remember to vote for sure. And remember, our next club meeting is the day after Election Day, November 9th. And we look forward to seeing you all then. So between now and then, we hope to see you and stay safe and stay healthy. Good night, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks,
Good
Lorraine.
night.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Lorraine. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, everybody.